Hello again. I'm managing to keep up with one video a week so far by making short videos for the most part, but at least it's something. There may be an interruption in content in the next week or two, or there may already have been by this point, by the time this video is published, because I'm moving house. This will be the last video I record on this premises. So the next time you see me, I'll be in an apartment rather than renting a garage to live in. And by the time you see this one, it will already have happened. Well, we've done a lot so far about actual gameplay, mechanics, NPCs, creatures, playable races, world building, yada yada, etc. ad infinitum, lore, whatever. But what about how things work? Turn that off. What about how things work above the table? What about creating atmosphere? Mood. Things to help your players immerse themselves in the game you're running. Things like background music, or ambient noise, or lighting, and props, that sort of thing. The decor of the room you're playing in. They're not necessary things to play the game, but they can really help your players get a little deeper into the game world, into your world. Get them in character and keep them in character while the game goes on. We can start with a soundscape. I'm obviously not going to play any music in this because I don't want any copyright strikes or anything like that, but you can put music on to suit the mood of whatever environment or situation your players are in and their characters. Like, something upbeat and light for a social situation or while they're shopping. Like the Tannoy speakers, elevator music they play overhead in the mall or at Walmart. Or symphonic metal for an intense battle or a chase scene. You can also find background noise tracks either on YouTube or for download. Things like background noise and conversations going on in a tavern or a busy, busy tavern or meeting hall. Just the street noise and the conversations at a market stall for an outdoor market or a town fair for medieval times. The only trick to it really is to keep the volume low. You want it just barely loud enough that everybody can hear it, but not loud enough that anyone has to get louder to talk over it. It works. Your lighting, that's another way. You can control the direction and the strength of the lighting in whatever room you're in. You can build atmosphere with it. You want everything bright where people are supposed to be looking, where your players are supposed to be looking, and dim, shadowed everywhere they're not supposed to be looking. So like putting a shade on your overhead light so it only puts light on the table, not into the corners of the room. You center it on the table. You want it bright enough for your players to read their character sheets, find their dice, and see the numbers when they're rolling them. So you want a decent amount of light there, but again, just barely. Center it on the table, let the rest of the room be dark, so you can focus everyone's attention on what they're supposed to be looking at. on what's on the table and in front of them. You can use contrast in colors to help with this too. A dark green or a black tablecloth underneath everything else that's on the table. The figures, the dice, the maps, the character sheets. Character sheets are white. Having a black background behind it will bring that out and draw their attention towards it. They're looking at what they're supposed to be looking at and not looking at anything else around them. So we can move on from there to decor. Even if you've got bright white walls in the room, lighting can help dim that. You can pull attention away from that fact. If you have the option, hanging things on the walls, like fancy old style picture frames, doesn't matter if it has a picture in it or not. Just dark colored blankets and bed sheets. Anything generally dark in color or anything that looks really old will break up the stark white and give it a few silhouettes, and the dim lights and the edges will pull attention back to the table. Just pull their focus, control it, just a little bit. You mainly want your lights and your detailed stuff to be in the directions where you want your players to look. Another way you can create and control the mood and the atmosphere is with props. You can do like I'm doing here. Have a few items and objects that roughly match your theme visible above and below your head. Creates a frame. A few tools, ancient weapons, ubiquitous object, bottles, cups. And with a black background. Like I said, it creates a frame. It draws the player's eyes towards you in the center of the frame when you're talking to them. Just like I'm doing with you now. You're not staring at that because it's not moving, it's not talking. You're not staring at the black, you're looking at me. What's below me and what's above me, that's the frame. There's other things you can do with props. The bottles and cups that you give your players to drink out of. You can pick up stuff like this. These things at a thrift store, a Value Village. This one's particularly different, but a thrift store, Value Village, arts and crafts projects you can do for yourself. Salvation Army, Goodwill, Value Village, and they're cheap. A couple bucks a piece, and you've got it, and it's there, and it suits the theme. And that's things that you can share among the table for your players to use. If you want to go even cheaper, a lot of dollar stores, you can find plastic cups that are molded and shaped to look like fancy crystal goblets for like $1.25. You can find decorative colored glass bottles with a cork in them that are like molded into antique shapes. Again, it's really cheap, it's really easy. So that's where I got my mortar and pestle too. Something that sits there. It suits the theme, and right now it's holding my keychains. But, okay, if you give somebody a potion, hand them a little bottle as a prop. Here you go. There's your poison for the rogue in the party, or the alchemist. It adds to the atmosphere, and it's a memory aid. They have it in front of them, they remember they have it when they need it. or when they're going to use it. They don't forget it's there. Everyone else at the table sees it's there and can remind them that they have that if a situation comes up where they might need it or might use it. They work as memory triggers just as much as they add to the atmosphere, and they build on the feeling of the world you play in. You could have other tiny props, like, there we go. Get little miniature things to represent the things your player characters find or that you give them. For example, there's a huge cleaver in the ogre's kitchen. You could use it as an axe. Well, here's your representation. It's a cheese knife, but a giant cleaver. When their character finds it, you give them a prop, a memory aid. If they can see it in front of them physically, not just as two words on a line on their character sheet or on their notes, then they're a lot more likely to remember they have it. And you don't have to remind them about it. The only other thing you can do for maintaining immersion is something you can't really control. And that's the outside world, or at least the noise from it. Planes flying overhead, traffic outside, roommates or neighbors arguing, you can hear them through the walls. If it's your roommates, you can at least ask them to, you have that option. Ask them ahead of time, hey, could you please keep it down a little bit while the game's going on? That might help. There's no guarantee. It may still be worth the effort. But you have to learn, and if you're the focus and the game's the focus, if you can ignore the noise in the background, the outside world, and pretend it's not happening, if your players are focusing on you and focusing on the game, they'll be more easily able to do that too. You can't make a perfect immersion, but you can help it along. So, what ideas do you guys have for building immersion, building atmosphere and mood for your home games? Is there anything I missed or things that you've used that I didn't think of? Let me know in the comments. I read and try to reply to every comment I get, because I get so few of them. I'll see what I can come up with for next week. Hopefully it'll be interesting. And as always, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you next time.